Boris Johnson today welcomed as a great step forward the formal invitations that will be issued to Finland and Sweden to join NATO. At the summit of the Western Military Alliance in Madrid, the head of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, also confirmed that Ukraine can count on its support for as long as it takes. But as the Russian invasion grinds on, President Zelensky warned the summit that if President Putin can attack Ukraine, he could also do the same elsewhere too. From Madrid, our Europe editor, James Mates, has the latest.
Few international meetings are complete these days without a video address from Ukraine's President Zelensky. But after the events of Monday, this one took on a particular significance. Late last night, his office had released this CCTV picture of a Russian missile hitting the shopping centre in Kremenchuk. A freeze frame just before impact shows the size and power of the weapon used against a civilian target. A powerful reinforcement of Zelensky's message to NATO: if he'll do this to us, then what's next?
Russia does not want to stop in the Donbass or somewhere in the south of Ukraine. It wants to absorb city after city, everyone in our country, then everyone in Europe. This is the real goal of Russia. Question: who is next? Moldova? Or the Baltic countries? Or Poland? The answer is all of them.
NATO have taken that on board, the US announcing new forces for Europe, including 2 new F-35 fighter squadrons to be based in the UK. President Biden wanted no one to be in any doubt about American commitment.
In a moment when Putin has shattered peace in Europe and attacked the very tenets of rule-based order, the United States and our allies, we're going to step up. We're stepping up. We're proving that NATO is more needed now than it ever has been.
And soon to be bigger than it ever has been. Boris Johnson this evening meeting Finland's president, who along with Sweden are now being formally invited into the NATO family.
If Vladimir Putin was hoping that he would be getting less NATO on his western front as a result of his unprovoked illegal invasion of Ukraine, he's been proved completely wrong. He's getting more NATO.
Finland's foreign minister told me that NATO need not worry. They will be pulling their weight.
We have, of course, a very strong traditional army. We have almost 300,000 reservists in our army. We have just ordered 64 new F-35 fighters and so forth. We have been investing on that side.
And it's not just about Russia. Today, NATO put China high on its list of strategic concerns because of its challenges to the international rules-based order and principally because of its growing partnership with Moscow. Hard to remember that only a year or so ago, some, including some European leaders, were openly questioning whether there was still any point to NATO. James Mates, ITV News, Madrid.
Well, the news from the summit has been partly overshadowed, on the British front anyway, by a domestic row over defence spending. And our political correspondent Romilly Weeks joins us from Madrid now. Romilly, what's all this about then?
Well, Mary, the Prime Minister told us on his plane on the way to this summit that his primary goal here was to persuade other world leaders to step up, as he put it, to leverage what Britain is spending to persuade them to also spend more on defence. Slightly awkward then that his Defence Secretary and his Foreign Secretary, who are both here at this summit too, muddied that message by suggesting that Britain could look at investing more in defence itself. They're concerned that because of rises in inflation, any rises in defence spending could be cancelled out. Tonight, the Prime Minister dismissed that.
We're having a bigger defence budget. It's been increased massively, the biggest increase since the end of the Cold War, £24 billion more. 2021, we were the 3rd biggest defence spender in the world. What we do today here in NATO, in addition to everything else, is get our partners to recognise that everybody needs to step up to the plate, and they are.
It is a tricky balancing act for the Prime Minister, balancing cost of living pressures back home. Tonight he did announce £1 billion of spending in military support for Ukraine. But as for extra cash for UK armed forces, that is not on the table right now.
OK, Romilly Weeks in Madrid, thank you. Well, in Ukraine, there's news tonight of a large number of prisoners of war being freed in a prisoner swap. Let's go straight to our correspondent, John Ray, who's in Kyiv now. John, what can you tell us about this?
Well, you'll remember, Mary, of course you will, the siege of Mariupol, the men and women here who are regarded absolutely as national heroes because they held back for a week after bloody week the Russian advance. It ended with them surrounded and surrendering at the Azovstal steelworks. That tonight the news here in the biggest prisoner swap of this war so far, that 144 Ukrainian soldiers have been set free. Many of them terribly badly injured, will require pretty urgent medical treatment. Amongst them, though, 95 heroes of Mariupol. What we don't know is whether this will have any bearing on the case of the two British men, Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner, who were sentenced to death for alleged terrorism offences by Russian-backed rebels in the east of the country. A whole load of critics have denounced that quasi-legal process of nothing better than a kangaroo court.